Hey guys, it's Loaf. I wanted to make a quick update video for my Electrify Javadin. We are a couple days into the new season, and Javadin has been absolutely crushing the game. I wanted to go over some of the pros and cons of the build that I've had so far, and then some of the slight changes I've made along the way. First up, to go over the pros of the build, the biggest upside has to be the incredible layers of defense the build has with block, armor applied to dot, and just an insane amount of leech. I have tanked most of the game, just face tanking and hardcore. This is my first character still. I haven't died yet. I'm probably going to be doing Uber Aberoth either later today or tomorrow, as I've already killed regular Aberoth and have the summons ready to go. So defenses have been amazing, as well as the single target damage. Any enemy you're able to ramp up on, since it is a damage over time build and you have so many shotgunning projectiles, I just absolutely obliterate. I'm over 500 corruption already in solo, and I am just obliterating bosses in typically sub 30 seconds. As far as the downsides, they're pretty minor. Probably the two biggest downsides is the clear, while most of the time is really good, it does definitely get stronger if there's more condensed packs. The more condensed packs you have, it's easier to shotgun a bunch of javelins in there, and then they start proccing smites and the lightning bolts from the javelin all over the place. So if you get like those awkward echoes where the mobs are really spread out and they're not close enough to kind of hit with those extra projectiles, it can be kind of annoying to clear. As well as it's not the fastest build out there as far as like speeding through stuff and running while doing damage. I make up for that for just using Shield Rush. So I just charge past all the monsters. They kind of follow me. Once they're in the big pack behind me, I just throw one javelin behind me. It clears the whole pack. So there's ways to get around it, but some of that will bother some people. So I just wanted to make sure that we called it out. But overall, I think 95% of people have been really enjoying the build and just been loving the playstyle and the aesthetic of the character, as well as it being extremely hardcore viable. So if that is kind of your thing, it's really good at that. And it doesn't really need any gear to get going. All of the mana issues and defenses and all of that are mostly built inside the skill tree and the passives, so it's really easy to get going, and then there's some transitions you can make later in the game once you get some of the gear. If you'd like to see more guides like this one, make sure you guys sub to the YouTube channel, and then come watch me play live over at twitch.tv/pinchingloaf. We'd love to see you guys there. And let's go ahead and go to the planners, and we're going to go over some of the changes and tweaks that I've made to the build so far. Alrighty guys, first thing I want to go over is some of the minor gear changes that I've made to the character so far. Most of the stuff is going to be relatively the same, but I just wanted to give a couple like key call outs of some tweaks I've made, or some like progression that I would recommend when choosing to put on what gear when. So the first big thing is I have swapped up the idols. Prior to the patch, the 10 times per 2 seconds for the cap of smites being casted per second didn't seem to be working. It was letting us go past that cap, and so I was using a lot more of the cast on smite idols. After the patch went live, it did seem very clear that the cap is now back in place, and so we are only going to want to use 2 cast on smite idols to hit that cap. You only need really even like medium rolls on both of these to hit the cap. You're a little bit shy on the cap if you have a 25% perfect roll, so I still recommend using it too. As far as the enchants, we're still going to go for Electrify and Electrify duration. The duration is going to be much more important for the bossing damage. So instead, we're going to fit in the 4 smite damage idols. I know a lot of people are confused by this, so I just wanted to call out that the increased smite damage on here applies to the ailments that smite is applying. So that says 54% increased damage to the Electrify applied by smite. I just swapped out to add some of the crit multi on here, as well as the increased armor. The crit multi is a more multiplier from one of the Paladin nodes for damage over time, so that's why we're going to be stacking so much crit multi. As far as the gear goes, the only major changes I've made is I swapped over from a bone amulet to an oracle amulet. We weren't quite sure how egregious the damage over time was going to still be in this patch, as it got nerfed pretty heavily coming into the new season. It is still really, really bad. It's the only thing that really ever gets me even close to death at this point. So getting that 20% less damage over time taken is going to be really important. Other than that, one of the things I did change with the boots, it's a very, very minor thing, but if you do crush a Xeric set boot and you can seal off the shard it gives you, it'll give you a little bit of increased movement speed and leech rate, which is really the only set item that is good. We're not completing the set bonus at all, just getting that extra movement speed and leech speed. The other thing I would call out is with the Weaver's Gift, it's not mandatory for you to use this sword. And I'd only use it because there's 3 main ways that we can get our leech for this build, which is a mandatory stat. So you can either use the unique glove, the avaris, which I highly recommend that you keep. I used this until I think like level 80 something because it was just more convenient for me to do this. The other option is if you happen to drop a bleeding heart, you can use a bleeding heart. However, I think the best setup late game is going to be use the Weaver's Gift. I just don't use Weaver's Gift until I have a 3% leech roll for being on hardcore and I have crit multi on the sword. If I don't have those 2 things, I'm not using it. I would rather use a level 6 pair of avaris gloves. The reason being is crit multi is by far your best stat for this build, as you basically divide it by 2 and it gives you that much more damage. So for like an 88% crit multi roll, that's 44% more damage to all of your ailment from Electrify. So if you don't have a crit multi Weaver's Gift, you're just going to be going for either a Chris dagger that gives you crit multi as the implicit with crit multi, lightning damage, ignite, and bleed chance, or you can look for a katana, which is a base sword. So the katana also gives you crit multi, just not as high as the Chris dagger, and then you're looking for the exact same stats. On the legendary weapon, I tiered the mods here, so T7, 6, 5, and 4, to show you which ones are the most important to least important to try to get on there. I did the same thing with the Code of the Erased. Code of the Erased, I did also change the priority for what stats to go for. So we're going to want to focus on getting crit multi, and then Javelin. Javelin is going to give us 2 different mods. If you get like extra levels on there, they give you a more damage multiplier. Outside of that, getting levels of Smite and level 2 symbols is still really good, but try to prioritize crit multi and levels of Javelin. Other than that, I didn't really change anything else on the actual gearing for the character, just some like minor like resistance stuff and like and whatnot. So just make sure you guys are getting as much block as you can, and that you're getting as much armor as you can. The bases for the gear is really important. So as you get higher level, make sure you're getting like a great helm, a regalia. You're getting the crit reduction boots and a eternal gauntlets. These are all going to be really, really big for your defensive layers later on. And you're going to feel like an absolute god as far as tankiness goes if you're able to do that. I was tanking my 10th Harvey's one-shot slams without my health bar moving. So this build is going to get very, very tanky in the end game. But that will kind of wrap up the gear changes. Next up, guys, I want to go over the very minor skill changes. There's only one skill that really had any kind of adjustment to it, and that is Javelin. Everything else is basically the same. So the first thing I want to call out, and I'll actually have on the new leveling planner that I'll have in the video description, is just the order that I take some of the nodes, and then some of the changes on where I put nodes if I get extra levels to Javelin. So our big thing here is when leveling is we want to get the Divine Throws for the lightning conversion, and then getting access to Siege Barrage as soon as possible. You don't want to drop the hammer throw in your leveling planner until you get Siege Barrage. Otherwise, your single target's going to feel bad. That's the only issue I ran through the entire first day, was I had like this 10 level gap where I just kind of felt a little bit underpowered because I didn't have the single target damage that I needed. But once I got Siege Barrage, that completely got fixed. So you'll just keep hammer throw on your skill bar and spec'd out until you get to that node, and then you can kind of swap it out. But the new leveling planner will have that in there for you. As far as the other changes, after we get to this point, which is kind of the base level 20, 21 skill tree here, once you get those extra levels, you are actually going to go up and grab Strategic Patience for the 60% more damage multi. I did a bunch of testing with it, and it is worth the minus 20% attack speed to get that massive more multiplier of all the ailments that Javadin is applying. The only very minor thing that I had changed is on the smite tree. I just waited to take unbalanced skill for a little bit longer. That way, if you haven't found your minus mana rings yet, and you're still using self-cast smite to regain your mana, you don't have the extra 5 mana cost there added to it to make it a little bit easier to refill your mana as quickly as possible. And those were basically the only 2 skills that got any kind of changes on there. Everything else is exactly the same. Alrighty guys, very last thing I wanted to go over is the very minor changes I made to the passive tree. Almost everything is the exact same, except I changed some of the timing in which I took certain nodes versus others. The only additional thing that I had actually changed into was adding Divine Essence to the build. Chat convinced me on it. You can basically get maximum stacks with the 4 points all the time. The biggest defensive layer that we are missing is the damage over time reduction. Some of the new champion mods have some ridiculous pools that they put on the ground that will almost one-shot you. That was the closest I've ever gotten to death. So right after that, I swapped into this just to help add an extra layer of defense. The slider here will give you kind of the new pathing progression through going through everything just to make sure you guys are covered. I mostly just made up these 4 points from like taking out a couple of minor nodes here and there from like filling out an entire skills passive points with that didn't really give us a whole lot of gain. So that's where I made up the 4 points. Everything else is basically the same though. Just wanted to give you guys that quick update. And that, guys, is going to wrap up this quick update video. Sorry for sounding incredibly tired. It's been a long last couple of days kind of going through the grind here and that 26-hour stream we did on the first day. Hopefully you guys are loving the build as much as I am. This will probably be the last update video I do for the guide unless I find some like crazy new tech that goes with it. But overall, the character has been phenomenal for me. Really helped me push up those hardcore leaderboards. Hoping to kill Uber Abby here either tonight or tomorrow. Like I said, just depending on how comfortable I'm feeling on losing my character. Next up, guys, I do hope to do a little bit of work with shield throw. I know there's been some people playing that would like some better direction. But if there is another build guide that you guys would like to see me do, or a new interaction or skill that you want to see me work with, make sure you guys let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys over on Twitch. Love all of you guys. I'll see you later.